So today we're going to be going over how you can do more damage in Hypixel Skyblock. I have done a video similar to this in the past, but it was quite a long time ago and it turned out to be quite a long video, so I want to sort of simplify this and make this into a shorter video. Anyway, before we do get into the video, if you do want to enjoy this video, then make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going for 10k subs, so I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Also, I'm trying to get back into the algorithm at the moment, so if you could leave a like on the video, it would be massively appreciated. And the last plug, you should join the Discord server as well. It's linked in the description. At the moment we've got some giveaways going on. You should probably not really miss them. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. I hope you all do enjoy. So the first topic that we're going to talk about is talismans and accessories. Essentially, buy as many as you can. There isn't really anything else to it. As long as you're not going broke from buying them, just buy as many as you can possibly afford, because they all help. Also, you'll need to make sure that you do reforge them all. Try and balance your strength with your crit damage in order to maximise your damage. We will go into the reforges more in depth when we actually get onto the reforges section. Now next up will be your weapon. What weapon should you use? Well, that sort of depends on what you want to actually use that weapon for. So as you can see here, I have both a livid dagger and a flower of truth. Now, outside of dungeons, this video is mainly focused on outside dungeons anyway. The livid dagger is always going to do more damage in terms of like a one-off hit. The flower of truth is better for damaging multiple enemies at once, so it just depends on actually what you want. Examples of other weapons that also will do a lot of base damage are items such as the Shadow Fury, the Giant Sword, and many others. Now when you look at this Giant Sword, you can see it's got the One for All enchantment, it's got Fables the Reforge, and it's got Hot Potato Books applied. It's also recombobulated. We'll get onto all of those in depth further on in the video. Basically the weapon is more down to choice than anything. Next we'll move on to your armor set. Once again we'll move on to upgrades, enchantments and so on further on in the video, but when it comes to the actual raw armor set, there's a few armor sets that will basically increase your damage full stop, and those armor sets will be a Necron set, maybe a Shadow Assassin set if you have a slightly lower budget and a lower Catacombs level. If you're even early game, maybe even a Strong Dragon set, or even an Unstable Dragon set. It's sort of whatever best works for you. So when it comes to reforges, you've got two options. You can either go for a reforge stone or the regular reforges. I mean, this sort of just depends on your situation. If you are early game and have less coins, it would be more advisable just to go for a regular reforge. Just head over to the blacksmith and you'll be looking for either spicy or sharp. But if you have a higher budget and you have a higher mining level, because most of the reforged stones need you to increase your mining level in order to actually be able to apply them, you could go for something like withered or even fabled. It just depends on what exactly you want to increase relative to your basic crit damage and strength balance. In terms of reforges on talismans, you'll be looking for something like silky or shaded or bloody. It all just depends on what your crit damage is and what your strength is and how close you are to balancing them. If you have a lower budget, you can also come back to the blacksmith. You want to be looking for probably it's going to be hurtful or forceful in order to just balance the strength and the crit damage. As for reforges on your armour, if you want to go down the reforged stone route again, ancient is going to deal the most damage, full stop. If you don't have enough money for the reforged stones or whatever it is, then you can go for fierce from the blacksmith. It's a good second. So when it comes to enchantments, in terms of your weaponry, really you've got two sort of lanes you can go down. You can either go down the One for All route, which basically removes all of the enchants off your weapon and increases your weapon's base damage by 210%. Or you could go down the Soul Eater route. The good thing about the Soul Eater is that you can basically have whatever other enchantments you want as well, whereas One for All removes all the enchantments. Now you might think, what does Soul Eater do? Now with Soul Eater, essentially what happens is the higher level or the higher health enemy you kill prior to the next hit, the more damage you'll do. So for consistency you want One for All, yeah, in theory Soul Eater you could potentially deal more damage. In terms of enchantments on your armour, to be honest, Legion is the only real enchantment that's gonna buff your damage. As you can see, Legion is very expensive at 26.2 mil, and to be honest, unless you have way too many coins to know what to do with, I wouldn't recommend buying this enchantment. Basically, at Legion 5, it'll increase most of your stats by 0.35%, and this will also scale with basically more players that are around you. It's a sort of a weird enchantment and doesn't really do an awful amount in usual situations. As for pets, I mean, my personal favourite one is a tiger. I mean, I just think it's very good. You can see its stats. It gives you massive buffs. People overlook pets all the time, but they are very important. It gives you a buff of crit damage, strength, ferocity. If you aren't sure what ferocity is, basically that 50% ferocity that you see there, that essentially means that when I hit something, I have a 50% chance of doing double damage when I hit. It's pretty cool. Other pets that you could look at would be a legendary lion, a legendary griffin, and if you have a lot of coins, an ender dragon. Granted, this pet is really overpowered, but it is over 500 mil. If you are early game and you don't have too many coins, I would recommend getting yourself a rare enderman, just purely because, I mean, I think when it's level 100 you can get plus 75% crit damage, which is pretty cool. To be honest, you don't even need a rare one, just get a common one, get the cheapest one you can get. Something else to consider is pet items, such as a spooky cupcake. When this is applied to your pet, it gives you an extra 30 strength, which is pretty cool. Maybe you could go down the route of iron claws, which will give you an extra additional 40% crit damage on the pet. So the next one will be your skills. These are pretty much the simplest and most fundamental ways to increase your damage, and people overlook them, including me. Look at that ridiculous foraging level, 19. Let's not even talk about that. The two levels that you want to focus on in order to increase your damage are both foraging and combat. So if we look at combat, basically each combat level you go up, you get more crit damage. And as for foraging, each foraging level you get an extra strength. So it's a no-brainer really. I need to work on this. Something else you could consider in order to increase your damage would be to buy a god potion. To be honest, these are really good. If you're in a situation where you think you're going to die, I wouldn't recommend it because you do lose it once you die, but it does stay for, as you can see, in my case, 17 hours. It's really good. Once you have a god potion applied, you can do slash effects, go to the second page, and you can see here it gives you strength 8, which in my case increases my strength by 78.8, which is basically a big increase. Now, other miscellaneous ways you could actually increase your damage would include recombobulating your weapon, your armour, or your talismans, applying 10 hot potato books onto your weapon in order to get the max increase in damage, or if you're willing to spend more coins, you can always buy 5 fuming potato books, apply them to your weapon to get the maximum increase that you could get there. You could also consider adding gemstones to your weapon. You can do this at the dwarven mines. Also, you could buy an Art of War book, apply it to your weapon, get 5 extra strength. To be honest with you, it's not worth it for the 22 mil, but if you have a lot of coins then you could consider it. And that just about rounds up how to increase your damage. I've tried to make this as quick and as compact and informative as possible. Hopefully it comes across that way. Anyway, I hope you all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.